Hey guys! Tonight we slip quietly into the narrow, mud-soaked alleyways of the Middle Ages. The air is cold, the kind of cold that settles deep into your bones. Your hands are cracked, your nose is running, and the only thing waiting for you at home is a drafty hut and a scratchy wool blanket you share with two siblings and a goat. No central heating, no thick mattress, no streaming shows to distract you from how truly miserable winter can get. And honestly, you probably wouldn't survive one night of it. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment too, where are you listening from and what time is it right now? Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You duck your head as you step through the crooked doorway. It's just tall enough to insult your forehead if you forget. Inside, the warmth you hoped for? It's more of a rumor than a reality. The fire in the center of the room is mostly smoke. It puffs and hisses, sending gray clouds up into the thatch, where soot clings like a second ceiling. There's no chimney, just a hole that may or may not help. Tonight doesn't. Your eyes sting, your throat burns a little, and still, you're grateful for the fire, because if it goes out, the night wins. You shuffle across the packed earth floor. It's uneven, lumpy, and still a little wet, from snowmelt tracking in on your boots. There's straw in one corner. It's meant to be a bed, but really it's just the softest part of the floor. You lie down slowly, feeling the brittle stalks poke through the thin cloth. Every creak, every snap, reminds you comfort is for nobles. Above your head, the roof groans, the thatch is patchy. And if the wind picks up just a little more, you know where the drips will land, right between your eyes. Again, that roof, by the way, it's a whole world of its own. Birds nest up there. Mice scurry. Fleas thrive. You once found a squirrel skull tucked between the rafters. No one's quite sure how it got there. Historians still argue whether medieval homes were truly shared with animals out of warmth, or if it was simply a matter of not having anywhere else to put them. But tonight, either way, the goat is here, chewing loudly. You pull your cloak tight. It's wool, thick with age, stiff with lanolin, and damp with the kind of chill that no fire can fix. Next to you, your little brother snores, curled like a cat, hogging most of the shared blanket. It smells like old smoke, turnip stew, and something you don't want to identify. There's no room to stretch your legs, not with your mother on one side, your brother on the other, and the dog making a bed out of your feet. You'd move, but you finally found a warm spot. And in a home like this, that's not something you risk lightly. Herbs dangle from the beams. Sage, marjoram, a dried clump of mint. Supposedly, they keep away spirits. Mostly, they just collect dust. But they smell better than the chamber pot. So, no complaints. You close your eyes, pull the blanket to your chin, and try not to think about the icy wind squeezing through every crack in the walls. The fire pops. The goat grunts. Someone coughs. You don't expect peace. You just hope to wake up with all your toes still attached. And maybe, if you're lucky, without a drip landing on your forehead before dawn. You wake to the sound of coughing. Not your own, someone else's, rough and low, rattling from a corner like an old wheelbarrow in need of grease. Your blanket has slipped. Your toes are numb. Your nose is doing that thing where it runs in both directions at once. The fire is a faint orange glow, not quite dead, but not alive enough to comfort you either. You rise slowly, joints aching, and grab the nearby poker to stir the embers. One spark, two, then finally, a few licks of flame, just enough to keep the room from freezing over. This fire? It never sleeps. In a medieval peasant's home, someone's job is always to feed it through the night. Scraps of wood, dry straw, maybe even dung if things are truly dire. Yes, dung. Dried cow patties? Sheep droppings, goat waste, whatever can smolder without choking the entire house. You get used to the smell. Kind of. Historians still debate whether peasants used dung out of necessity, or if it was a clever way to keep predators away. Either way, it works. You shuffle to the woodpile. It's not much. Just a few sticks and bundles left from the last foraging trip. Firewood isn't cheap. If you own land, you might have access to a small grove. If not, you're at the mercy of your lord's forest. And cutting wood there without permission? That's theft, punishable by fine, or worse. So most nights, you ration. A little here, a little there. Just enough to keep fingers functional. You add a few twigs, gently, and the flames sigh awake. The goat stirs. Your brother rolls over, mumbling something that sounds like turnip cake. Which doesn't exist, but dreams are generous like that. You sit back on your heels and hold out your hands. They hover above the fire. Cracked knuckles. Rough palms. The skin along your thumb split from hauling frozen buckets yesterday. The warmth seeps in slowly, but only your front. Your back still feels like a slab of cold stone. That's the thing about heat in a peasant's hut. It's never complete. One side thaws, the other freezes, and you rotate like a spit pig, but less delicious. You take a breath. The air is damp with wood smoke and wool. Someone in the next bed has started snoring again. A deep, vibrating one that rattles through the room like a sleepy bear. You reach for the kettle. It's half full from yesterday, mostly water with a hint of turnip and barley. You set it near the coals, watching it warm. There's no real breakfast coming. Just this thin broth and maybe some leftover crust if the mice didn't find it first. Sometimes, you add a sprig of herb, not for taste, but to convince your brain that this counts as nourishment. You sip slowly. It's warm. Barely. But it quiets the ache in your belly and gives you something to do. While you wait for the sun to remember it exists, you look over at your mother. She's awake now, eyes open, staring at the rafters. No words, just breathing, waiting. That's most of winter here. Not action, not drama, just the steady effort of waiting out the cold. People don't speak much in the mornings, not because they're rude, but because breath is precious. You save energy where you can. Outside, a rooster tries to crow, but his voice cracks halfway through. Poor guy. Even he's tired of this. You stand. Your knees pop. The floor is still cold. Always cold. But the fire is awake. The roof is holding. For now, and everyone in the room is breathing. That's a win. That's enough. You pick up a bit of straw and toss it into the fire. Just for the sound, the gentle hiss. There's something soothing in that. The fire is holding now. Not blazing, just steady. And in this world, steady is a luxury. You stand fully, stretch, and the cold rushes to remind you that it's still here. It wraps around your legs like a wet cloth left in a cellar. Every joint protests. Your breath clouds the air again. You look around the one-room hut. The same walls. Same straw. Same shadows. Nothing has changed, and yet every morning it feels like a small miracle. That the place didn't collapse overnight. The hearth glows behind you. And now comes your most sacred task. Keeping it going. Not just for the warmth, but for survival. This fire is the only way you cook. The only way you dry soaked clothes. And sometimes, the only thing standing between you and a frostbitten end. In some villages, they called it the heart fire, because if it goes out, so does the family. You reach into the corner where you keep your kindling stash, a small pile of dry bark, twigs, and one cherished lump of resin-rich pine. You hesitate. That pine chunk burns hot and fast. Too fast. You decide to save it for the next true emergency. There's always another one coming. You toss in a few bits of bark. The flames brighten. The room doesn't get warmer. Exactly, but it feels like it might. Your sister begins to stir. pulling the wool blanket tighter around her shoulders. Her nose is red, and her cheeks are pale. She shivers even before she's fully awake. She looks over at you, and you nod. No words, just that nod. That's enough. There's a rhythm to this life, a quiet understanding. You move to the side wall, to the basket where food might be. A few shriveled carrots, half a turnip, some bread that could double as a weapon. You tap it on the table. It knocks like wood. Still, it's something. You break off a corner, dip it into the warm kettle water, and chew slowly. It helps if you don't think about flavor, or texture, or anything really. You hand a bit to your sister, who accepts it wordlessly. She curls near the fire, cheeks pressed to her knees, nibbling like a squirrel. Breakfast in a peasant hut isn't a meal. It's a strategy. Eat enough to move, but not so much that you run out before week's end. Sometimes, you dream of butter. Rich, golden, salty butter, melting over fresh bread. But that's not for you. That's for lords, or merchants, or ghosts. You wrap your cloak tighter. It's still damp. The smell of smoke has soaked into every thread, so deeply that it'll probably never leave. Even in summer, even if you boil it in the river, you turn your gaze to the ceiling. Watch the way the smoke gathers, clings, then slips through the thatch like lazy spirits. It's beautiful in a strange way. Slow, hypnotic, a dance of warmth and danger. One spark up there, and everything's ash. You think about that sometimes. How easy it would be for one moment of carelessness to undo everything. But you don't dwell. There's no time for that. Instead, you shift the pot closer to the flame. The water hisses. Steam rises. Your mother finally sits up. Blanket still wrapped over her head like a hood. She murmurs a few words. A blessing, maybe, or just a habit. Some families say a prayer each morning. Not for food, not for warmth, just for the fire, that it stays, that it burns. There's no glory in this life, no applause, no stories written down, but the hearth remembers. And that glow, it's the closest thing you'll ever get to comfort. Later that morning, after the fire is fed and the crusts are gone, you wrap a scarf around your mouth and prepare to step outside. The cold greets you instantly, a slap to the face, and a pinch at every joint. Your boots are stiff with frost, the leather cracked and patched more times than you can count. You take a step into the yard. It crunches beneath your foot, a sound too crisp to be comforting. And then comes the smell, wet hay, old wood, and a hint of something unwashed, which, let's be honest, could be you. You make your way to the storage shed, if you can call it that. It's more like a wooden lean-to, leaning harder each year. Inside, baskets hang from pegs, to keep them away from rats. They still get in anyway. You pull out a sack of root vegetables, turnips and onions mostly, no potatoes yet. They won't arrive in Europe for a few hundred years. Historians still debate how early certain regions began using root cellars. But for now, you keep things cool by burying them, or storing them in holes under the floorboards. You knock some frost off a clay jug. It's your ale. Weak, sour, but safer to drink than water, which might be full of things you don't want to meet. You bring the goods back inside. Your sister is up now, trying to coax a smile from the dog, who looks unimpressed. You take the root vegetables and start scraping them with the back of your knife. The fire pops. The dog sneezes. It's not glamorous. It's not even that clean. But this is how soup begins. A little turnip, a little water, maybe a pinch of crushed herb. If someone remembered not to burn it last night, your mother hums a soft tune, the kind that's been passed down for so many generations. No one remembers who wrote it. The air inside is warming now, a little. Steam rises from the pot. You can smell the earthiness of the roots, dull but strangely comforting. Someone coughs again. Someone always coughs. It's winter after all. You sit beside the fire, holding your hands over it, just close enough to feel, not too close. You've learned that lesson before. The skin on your palm still carries a shiny patch from last winter's mistake. Your brother shuffles toward the pot. You hand him a wooden cup. He blows on it, then drinks quickly, burning his lip but refusing to show it. Pride is one of the few luxuries you can still afford. You take your own sip. It tastes like nothing, but warm nothing. And that, honestly, is better than cold anything. You hear the neighbor's rooster again. Louder now? Annoyed. Which means the sun is finally up. Or close enough. Time to face the day. You roll your shoulders, pull your cloak tighter, and brace yourself, because breakfast might be over, but comfort isn't coming. There's no rest, no leisure, only tasks. The fire still needs tending. The woodpile must be checked. Water fetched, animals fed, mud cleared, children watched, bread made, tools mended. The list stretches long and cold. But for now, you allow yourself one final moment, sitting on the edge of your straw mat, holding that half-empty cup, watching the steam curl as the light begins to creep through the cracks in the walls. You survived another night, and in this world, that's what victory looks like. Mid-morning brings with it the one task you never quite get used to it, leaving the house to answer nature's call. You pull your cloak tighter around your chest. The air bites, and the ground outside has hardened into frozen ruts. Each step jars your knees. You know exactly which patches will make your ankles twist if you forget to tread carefully. There's no indoor privy here, not even a chamber pot, unless you count the cracked jug tucked in the farthest, darkest corner, which no one wants to empty. No, you're headed out back, to the toilet, which is really just a wooden box, with a hole in the middle, and a view of the woods. You push the door open, and feel the wind rush straight through your bones. One gust, and it feels like your entire body clenches. You trudge through the frostbitten mud, past the coop, where the chickens eye you like you've interrupted something. The outhouse stands alone, leaning slightly like it's ashamed of itself, which honestly, it should be. You open the wooden door. It groans louder than your joints. The smell greets you first, even in the cold. Especially in the cold. You step inside, shivering as you position yourself. The seat? Icy. As in, why do I do this to myself? Icy. You try to make it quick, but speed is hard when you're trying not to fall in. Historians still argue how often peasants cleaned their latrines. Some say weekly, some say never. Standing here, you'd lean toward the latter. You finish your business, pull your clothes back into place, and shuffle out with as much dignity as one can muster after sitting on frozen wood in the dark. No toilet paper, of course, just moss, or rags, or, in desperate times, snow. Let's not talk about that. You head back toward the cottage, relieved, but still cold, and now with boots caked in something you don't want to investigate. Back inside, you stomp your feet gently by the door. Your sister wrinkles her nose. You shrug. What can you do? It's winter. It's life. You toss another twig onto the fire. The flames don't even react. They just accept it, as if to say, yeah, we're tired too. You glance toward the forest, through the small slit of a window, if you can call it that. A hole in the wall, covered in oiled parchment. to keep out the wind. Outside, the snow continues falling, soft but endless. It gathers on rooftops, weighs down tree limbs, coats the path in silence. Your breath fogs the air again. It always does, even indoors. Even beside the fire, you sit down, tugging your cloak back into place, and take another sip of broth. It's lukewarm now, but still better than nothing. The dog nudges closer. You let him. Even his stink has grown familiar, like part of the furniture. Your little brother coughs. It's shallow, dry, but it keeps coming. Your mother frowns. You all exchange glances, but no one says anything. What is there to say? There's no doctor, no medicine, just time and hope. You chew a piece of stale bread slowly, crunchy, dry. But if you soften it near the fire, it becomes almost edible. Almost. The rooster calls again, louder this time. You almost feel bad for him. He sounds hoarse, like he's over it too. You glance at the dog. He blinks once, then curls into himself tighter. You decide not to move for a few more minutes, not because you're lazy, but because the blanket finally feels warm. And warmth is rare, sacred. You watch the fire crackle, listen to the wind outside, and let your body rest just for a little while. The chores will wait, the cold won't, but you're here, alive, breathing. And sometimes, that's enough. Afternoon creeps in slowly, hidden behind a sky the color of wet wool. There's no sunshine, just a softer kind of gray. That tells you time is passing. Even if nothing feels different, you shift near the fire, adding another stick, one of the last from the pile. You stare at it, watching it catch. The flames curl and whisper, but they don't roar. Nothing roars in winter. Your sister needs a lump of dough near the hearth. She's careful with the flour. You don't have much left. Not enough for a real loaf. Just flatbread, maybe. Baked on a stone. Crispy on the edges. And just chewy enough in the middle to remind you of better meals. She hums a little tune. You don't recognize it. Probably one of her own. Something made from boredom. And long evenings. In the corner, your brother still coughs. That rasp in his chest has deepened. He won't complain, but your mother's eyes are sharper now. Worried. She moves toward the window, the slit with the oiled cloth, meant to keep out the wind. She squints, and then, as if in answer, she reaches for the pouch, the one tucked in the beam, the one with dried herbs, bundled long ago by a traveling wise woman, who swore they'd help with chest troubles. Powdered toad, dried nettle, crushed bark. Some things better not translated. Your mother sprinkles a pinch into the pot of water and murmurs a few words. Not a spell. Not exactly. More like a promise. This isn't science. It's desperation, wrapped in tradition. Historians still debate how much medieval folk medicine actually helped, or whether it was just belief that did the work. But belief is powerful, and in this cottage, it's all you have. The water bubbles gently. The smell is sharp, almost peppery, with something sour beneath it. Your brother doesn't fight. He drinks it, grimacing, then curls back into the blanket. You watch his chest rise and fall. Not deeply, but steadily. Outside, the wind moans again. The sound leaks through the walls like a warning. You glance toward the rafters. The bundle of garlic still hangs there, next to a small wooden carving. An owl, eyes wide, wings spread, a protection charm, carved by your grandfather. He said owls see what people can't. Sometimes, you believe that. The goat bleats suddenly. You turn. It's chewing on one of your mother's shawls. You lunge, pulling it away, and the goat protests loudly, then sulks by the door. You sigh. The shawl is wet now, but not ruined. Your mother smirks. For a second. Just a second. There's warmth in her face. Something soft. Something human. Before the gray returns, she resumes sewing. a tear in your brother's tunic. Her fingers are red from cold, but still nimble. She doesn't stop. She never does. Your sister flips the bread. It sizzles faintly on the stone. You close your eyes, just for a moment, and inhale the smell of flour, smoke, goat, and whatever that potion was. It's not pleasant, but it's real. And somehow, you feel safer, with it all around you. You press your hand to the dog's back. He's asleep, snoring. His ribs rise and fall, like a lullaby. In the fireplace, the flames flicker. One log shifts, sends sparks up into the dark. You watch them dance, tiny stars, brief and bright. Before they vanish, your mother whispers something. A prayer, maybe, or a memory. You can't hear the words, but you hear the weight of them. The room is quiet again, except for the wind. And the sun is setting now, though you wouldn't know it. From the color of the sky, it just fades from gray to a heavier, colder kind of gray. Shadows stretch across the walls. Though nothing in the room has moved, everything simply feels a little heavier. Even the fire flickers lower, as if it's tired too. You're sitting by the wall, knees tucked in, back aching in that familiar, dull way. Your sister hands you a piece of flatbread. It's tough, burned on one side, barely warm, but it's food, and food means you've made it. Another hour, another day. You chew slowly, carefully. There's a crunch, something unround, maybe a flake of stone, or ash from the hearth. You don't complain. You're too tired to be picky. The dog lifts his head, sniffs once, then drops it again. He understands the rhythm too. Eat, rest, wait. Eat, rest, wait. No one speaks for a while. Your mother threads a needle. With what little thread is left, your brother's tunic, your sister's sock, your own cloak. She works in silence, like a priest tending quiet wounds. The baby stirs in the next cot. Not yours, your cousin's. They sleep here sometimes, or always. Privacy doesn't exist in this house. Walls are for the wealthy. You have beams, shadows, and a blanket hung on a bit of rope, if someone really insists. But modesty is a luxury. Warmth comes first. So you share space. You share breath. You share everything. A cough, a bowl, a moment of quiet. You look around the room, every corner. Hold someone, or something, or memories that hang in the air like smoke. The rafters are cluttered with bundles of herbs. A boot sole waiting to be patched. A braid of garlic that's older than you, and a child's toy carved from bone, a little lamb with one leg missing. Historians say medieval peasants had no real concept of personal space, and honestly, they're not wrong. You couldn't afford space. You couldn't afford alone. Together was warmer. Together was survival, even if it meant stepping over 3 legs. And 2 dogs, just to get to the cabbage pot. Your sister stirs that pot now, carefully, her fingers raw and red from the cold. She ladles some into wooden bowls, gives it to your mother, then your brother, then you, last to herself. She always eats last. You blow gently on the surface. The steam curls up into your face, earthy, bitter, familiar. Tastes like smoke and boiled memory, but it fills you. Outside, the wind presses its face against the door, searching for a crack to sneak through, and it finds one. It always does. You pull the blanket tighter. The dog shifts against your feet. His ribs rise and fall like a slow drumbeat. Comfort. Your aunt whispers something to the baby. A lullaby, maybe, or just a hush. Her voice is low and warm. The baby listens, and in that moment, the entire house seems to exhale. Even the wind. Even you. The fire spits softly, sending a curl of smoke into the rafters. Where it mingles with the shadows, you lean your head back against the wall. Close your eyes. Feel your breath slow. The cabbage bowl rests on the floor beside you, still faintly warm against your leg. You listen and breathe and let the night gather itself around you, not harshly, but gently, like a thick wool cloak, pulled over your shoulders by someone who remembers what warmth feels like. The fire crackles, the room quiets, and slowly, softly, you begin to drift. The night deepens. Outside, the wind scrapes at the walls like a thief. You wake briefly, when a gust rattles the shutters, but no one stirs. Everyone is bundled where they lay. Siblings tangled together like roots. Your aunt curled beside the baby. Your mother seated upright, half asleep, with her stitching still in hand. The fire is low, a faint red glow nestled in the ash. You can't see it, but you feel it, just enough to keep the cold from biting too deep. You shift beneath your blanket, feeling the sharp edge of a straw stalk against your back. You ignore it. What's one more poke, when your entire body is already sore? Your breath fogs gently in the air. It shimmers against the darkness, then vanishes. You hear the dog sigh. The goat, finally quiet, makes a soft sound in its sleep. Maybe it dreams of spring. You hope so, because someone should. This moment, this is what passing a winter night looks like, when you have no luxuries, no comforts, only the will to last until morning. You think about how long until dawn, not in hours, in breaths, in logs left, in coughs endured, in how many times the fire must be stirred. Before the sky begins to shift from black to blue, there's a rustle from the rafters. Mice again. Of course, they live here too. You once tried to chase them out with an old broom. Didn't work. Now you leave them be, so long as they don't get into the bread. Above you, bundles of herbs swing gently in the draft day. Mint, wormwood, angelica. Some say they protect the house from illness. Others say they're for spirits. Truth is, no one knows, but they smell nice. And they remind you that even in winter, something green once grew. You lie there, eyes half open, watching the red glow pulse like a sleepy heartbeat. Your mother whispers another old song, barely a tune, more of a breathy rhythm. She picked up from her own mother, and her mother before that. You know none of the words, but you know the feeling. It settles over the room like a fog, soft and slow. No one says goodnight. There's no point. The night isn't over. It just keeps stretching, like a road that never turns. You tuck your hands beneath your chin. Your fingers are cold, always cold, but the blanket's warm where your sister sleeps beside you. You steal a bit of that heat, and she doesn't wake. The fire cracks one last time. A spark lifts, then fades. The baby sighs. The wind quiets, just for a moment, and for the first time all night. You feel something like peace. Not joy, not comfort, but peace. And that's enough. The room fades into stillness. Your body, heavy now, sinks deeper into the straw. The warmth you've gathered from fire, from breath, from the quiet press of bodies beside you, lingers like a memory, still too soft to name. Beyond the walls, the wind hums low, a sound you've learned to live with, a song of sorts. The goat doesn't move, the fire glows faint, and your mother's tune, now just a whisper, settles across your chest, like a second blanket. You close your eyes, and the night, long cold, but somehow gentle, wraps around you. Sleep comes slowly, not as a rush, but as a drifting, like ash from the hearth, like snow falling sideways in the dark, like the quiet breath of a house that's survived another winter night. And tomorrow? Tomorrow will be cold too. But for now, you're safe. You're warm enough. You're here. And you made it.